guys. Hope you're doing well today. It's Fred and Sheila with Hatfield McCoy Museum Adventures and Fred and Sheila Investigates. Hope y'all
Where where have we been?
trying to stay warm. It's cold.
Trying to stay warm, guys. Bad
Yeah.
winter here.
Yeah.
Don't know where you're at. You can look behind us. We've been out skiing today up in eastern Kentucky. Um, guys, we're through with the Buford Pusser story. We were two of the first ones on that story when it broke, and we think we made our mark and made our point. Um, and we basically was done with it. Sheila and I was talking while we've been on this downtime, just working on other things and enjoying each other, enjoying the winter
Mm,
and cabin fever. But
yeah, for
we
sure.
were talking about how somebody had sent us a video that had recently come out, and we were discussing it. So they had sent us a video, and we watched it of some of Pauline's uh, kinfolk, you could say. One thing that with it available nowadays, first of all, when people says that they're related to somebody, it would be good if people would actually do DNAs. Wouldn't it be something if we're out here listening to people and this person or that person and they're saying they're this or that, and we've had it. Sheila and I have had this with the Hatfield McCoy investigations and stories that we've done. We've had people say Devil Lance Hatfield's my grandfather. Devil Lance Hatfield's my great grandfather. Devil Lance Hatfield's my great great. And we've called some of those Hatfields out and asked for DNA test. And when they come back, they either come back that they're not related or they come back and they make their findings private so a person doesn't know, or it comes back and says, well, they could be one of four different families relation.
Hmm.
Um, so if people's going to claim to be related to certain people, especially famous people, how hard is it to spend the $45 and spit in a cup and send it to Ancestry, and they'll do a DNA for you and let you know.
Right.
That's the first thing. Second of all, Sheila and I was talking about how the Buford Pusser case and the Randall McCoy case
Or
is
similar in ways. How they took actual heroes and turned them into zeros.
that's a good way of putting it.
Um, Randall McCoy, for some of you that do not know or may not know, he was a veteran. He did stay and fight. He was captured and in the worst prison camp there is in Illinois. Uh, so, he did fight.
While
However,
Devil Lance
yeah,
was a deserter.
yeah,
He deserted in the heat of battle.
yeah.
Him and a bunch of his relatives deserted. Left
Right.
Randall McCoy, my great grandfather, Uriah McCoy, both taken prisoner of war. Everybody
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
wasn't taken prisoner of war was killed. Now we're saying all that, like Sheila said, there's so many similarities here between Randall McCoy and Buford Pusser. We're,
And Hubert Bay.
and Hubert Bay McCoy.
Yeah.
You're going to hear Hubert Bay McCoy's a new story
Mhm.
that just came out in 2011.
Yeah.
And our point is what we're wanting to show in this story is in this video is how similar they are and how a person can take books, book writers can change the course of history, can change a person's reputation from hero to zero,
Yeah.
and from a zero, a deserter, to a hero.
Yeah.
Because Kevin Costner played Devil Lance Hatfield. Of course, Daryl Fetty had a lot to do with that. One of the producers of that show,
Hmm.
and we'll talk about that later on. So it's not only books; it's even movies that can. And mine and Sheila's point here is, I think we're on the same wavelength. Is how family members sometimes don't realize what they're doing
Right.
for fame, fortune, name, notoriety. or some people, like during the Hatfield McCoy days, just not wanting to be involved in another feud, not wanting to be bullied.
Mm-hmm.
The West Virginia Hatfields were bullies, like modern day bullies. They still exist. Bullies are still out there. There's bullies on the computers. There's bullies in real life. There's bullies in grade school and high school. And the West Virginia Hatfields back in the day was bullies. And they bullied. And they didn't only bully, they backed it up. When they were in numbers, and most people know that that's how bullies work. When you got numbers behind you, and every time that Randall McCoy stood up for his family or for a death, they would burn their house down or kill more. It didn't matter. You wasn't going to win when you had a group of renegades and deserters. Getting off topic there a little bit, but you'll follow us. Guys, there was, in this video we just recently watched, was this young lady, and she's talking about Pauline Pusser. Now, she says Pauline Pusser was a
Spitfire,
that she didn't care, her great-great-grandmother didn't care to stand up, and she was a well, and she said that her grandmother, Diane, was the same way. Our question is, why didn't they stand up? Why didn't they stand up when this was going on? Pauline stood up against it with Roman Vance.
right? So she would know the procedures to take to get away from Mr. Pusser if he was abusive. She'd already been in that type of situation, so she would know what to do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. This wasn't her first rodeo. If she was being abused, this wasn't her first rodeo. She knew how to seek a lawyer, how to get a divorce. She knew how to do that. That wasn't done. There's never been, contrary to what people says, well, she went to this attorney, she went to that attorney. Again, guys, you can speak anything you want to into history. Where's the proof? Where's Will Terry Abernathy's statement where he says, yeah, Pauline came to me and wanted me to be her divorce lawyer? How could he be? He's attorney general at the time, or whatever his position was, a prosecutor. But that's written in the history. That's spoken in the history on videos. And what if Pauline knew how to do Roman Vance and put him in court and divorce him, she would know how to do Buford Pusser. Now, what our point is here, let's go back and forth, but somebody says, why are you and Sheila not covering Buford Pusser's story? Guys, Fred McCoy is just plain spoken. I'm just plain, maybe too plain sometimes. I make people mad. I rub people the wrong way. But I'm a person that just, everybody's always said, you don't have to go to the country store to see what Fred thinks about you. He'll tell you.
What you see is what you get.
I don't think that's a bad thing to have, trait to have. I like people with that trait. I'd rather you cuss me out, tell me off.
Well, you know what to expect.
I'll respect you for that.
Yeah.
Than I would tell me something to my face and go behind my back and tell somebody else. That's not the way it should work. So while I'm probably going to make some people hurt their feelings, don't mean to. It's nothing personal. But people's ask, why are y'all not covering Buford's story? Why? Well, guys, we quit. We quit. It seemed like to Sheila and I, or at least to me, I'll speak for myself, that we were more concerned about Buford Pusser's reputation of standing up for a dead man than his own family members. Sorry to say. Now, Madison, his granddaughter, said on a video at a town hall meeting that she had filed suit. We have looked and looked. We have waited and waited for this suit to be made public. We can't find it. Now, she said on that video that she had filed suit against Mr. Davison, Mr. Rouse, TBI, and the prosecutor's office. We can't find it. We were happy about that because that's how you get to the bottom, get people in depositions, and find out what this was all about. We can't find it. Now, we know that Pauline had Mike and Diane before she married Buford, and Buford or Mike had at least two sons, Eric and
Michael.
Michael. Thank you.
Mhm.
We've talked briefly either on core text or messaging or maybe even a phone call or two, but real nice. We talked to Eric. I think I talked to Eric on the
Eric,
phone,
yes.
but I know we've talked back and forth on messaging to both of them. Nice fellas, it seems like.
Hmm.
And maybe they're just not like Fred. Maybe some people just don't like to make waves. But I'm going to show you what happens when you don't make waves. I want to show you, and that's the reason the front of this thumbnail that you probably looked at to click on this video was Randall McCoy and Buford Pusser.
Hmm.
Probably Devil Anse Hatfield in there somewhere, and probably a little silhouette of a person on the other side. That silhouette represents many people.
Right.
Many book writers, or at least two book writers, prosecutors, TBI. That silhouette represents those people. We know who Randall McCoy's nemesis was. We know the West Virginia Hatfields, and especially led by Devil Anse Hatfield, was.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, she's going to start showing you some book covers as we talk from here. She'll probably move us to the side. Can you do that?
I sure can.
And we want to show you something because we're going to come back to the grandchildren.
Okay.
Now, this is in some of Mother's display cases in the museum. This is books that she's collected throughout the years. I don't think there's a Hatfield and McCoy book that's ever been written or article that Mother didn't have or save. This is not all of them, but this is the ones that we're going to put out there. And what happened with Randall and McCoy and Devil Anse Hatfield is after Randall had done lost 6 children, his house had been burned, his wife had been beaten, left for dead. Randall refused to talk to the newspapers, book writers. He refused to talk. He wouldn't say nothing. And by him not saying nothing, they wrote into history whatever they wanted.
They completely changed the outcome.
Yeah. They wrote whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
We did videos on this. We've got over 500 videos in Sheila's library on Hatfield McCoy Museum Adventures channel, which is probably where you're watching this at. Go back through the library and you'll find stories on this. But would these reporters want to come from Chicago or New York and then they get to Pike County and Randall McCoy runs them off his property? I don't want to talk about it. See, they didn't understand that. Every time Randall McCoy talked about it, every time he tried to get criminal charges, every time he tried to get warrants served, every time he tried to get justice for his children, more of his children were killed. His wife would be beat. His house would be burnt down. Every time something happened where he thought he was getting justice for his children, he would lose more children. They would kill more. That's what they did. West Virginia Hatfields were that brutal. Now, you got to understand, the reason I keep emphasizing West Virginia Hatfields because in these books, all these books that you're going to see here, except for a select few that actually done their research, the Hatfields were not from West Virginia and the McCoys from Kentucky. That's not the way it was. There was Hatfields and McCoys from West Virginia. There was Hatfields and McCoys from Kentucky. So when they come there to talk to Randall McCoy and he refused to talk, and Devil Anse said, "Come on in, I'll talk to you. I'll tell you all about it. I'll tell you what scoundrels they were." Devil Anse never mentioned that he left in the heat of battle. He deserted. He started his own gang of desperados, the Tug Valley Raiders. He called them the Logan Wildcats, no association to the real Logan Wildcats. But he gave them hero names. They thought this guy was really a hero. He was a deserter. We have Civil War records. We're not going to.
Right.
This is not for that. We've covered all that in numerous videos with proof, truth with proof.
Right.
What we're wanting to show here, Sheila and I, is the resemblance between today's Buford Pusser,
Mm-hmm.
today's Hubert Bay McCoy, and what went on back then.
Right.
How people can write and speak stuff into history. And if you don't stand up and correct it
Yeah.
when it's going on,
By the time that the next generation comes up, it's double, triple times harder to correct it, to go through that,
it's
because
too
the
late.
pen is mightier than the sword,
It's too late.
per
That's it. That's
se. And
great.
so they've written it and rewrote it, and
The
it's
pen is mightier than the sword, and it is. It is.
so
Guys, some of these books right here, this that brown book there, that's by Shirley Donnelly. Um, the books down below, there's the quilt. Go to the next one. Some of those books we have over here to the top left, the devil, the tale of the devil.
mhm,
Um, some of these books that was written back in the day by either T.C. Crawford, Shirley Donnelly,
these right here.
Otis K. Rice, Coleman C. Hatfield, Robert Spence,
Mhm.
Virgil Carrington Jones. You can go ahead.
Okay.
She's just going to flash through them and show you some of them.
So the
Some of these is modern day books.
Mhm.
You can go back and, or she'll probably put them at the end of the video, where at the main end you can. There's Reunion by Ron McCoy. Ron McCoy's one of the McCoys that filed a lawsuit against Jim Vance. I'm sorry, Jim Vance's
His
great grandson, John
John
Vance,
Vance.
and his
Mhm.
wife, Barbara.
Mhm.
He's one of the McCoys from North Carolina, never heard of them before. He says he didn't even know he was related to the McCoys until he was 35 years old. But then he writes a book and puts a chapter in there on the history of the Hatfield McCoy feud. Now, he filed a suit and he calls it in the newspaper and on all the television stations, Hatfields and McCoys back in court again. It wasn't the Hatfields and McCoys. It was the McCoys.
Vance's.
It was Ron McCoy and Bo McCoy, his cousin from Waycross, Georgia, against Barbara and John Vance over property, wanting to take their property. But yet, this is the same Ron McCoy in that book right there, Reunion. He's the same one that got with Rio Hatfield later on and said they signed a peace treaty. There's been 3 peace treaties already signed throughout the years from Devil Anse and Randall McCoy's children, grandchildren, so forth. But we needed another one, a peace treaty, after they had filed a lawsuit against the innocent man and woman, which they lost. That's what made the cemetery back home off limits to anybody other than people that's related. You can't go up there, people can't. But that's just one of the books that you can look at here, and you'll see rejected. You'll see stickers on these books where they've been rejected, where there's something in there that's just not correct. It's not a book that we would recommend you read. Read them all. We're showing them to you. They're out there. But you're going to find in these books here about what you're going to find in the books that's on the market today. At least 2 different authors, at least 2 authors that's written books and writing books. I heard in this video where this gentleman says, I'm writing another book. After he got through talking to, if it's Pauline's offspring, descendant, then he told her, he said, I'm writing another book now. I'm working on another book. Guys, just because it's written in a book doesn't make it true. Just because it's written, there's you a 900-page book. We don't have no books for sale, Sheila and I don't.
No.
This is not about publishing books or selling books. We don't have any books for sale. We've wrote over 16 books over the years, but we don't have none for sale. That book beside of ours there, that My Appalachia
Mhm.
by Howard B. Lee.
And that's where he talked to. He's got a chapter in there where he talked to Cap's wife.
Yeah.
He calls her the Mountain Queen. And she states in there that Randall McCoy had came to Cap and apologized for everything that had happened. However, Randall McCoy passed away in 1914.
Guys, there's a chapter in there where Howard B. Lee
Mhm.
in 1975 is when he wrote this book. Now, Nancy Hatfield, Cap Hatfield's wife, died in 1942.
Right.
So this was 30 some years later that he wrote this book. Now, did he just write it in there? Because
Right.
he's also deceased now too.
Right.
But that book's still out there. People
Mhm.
still reads that book.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she died in 1942. Cap died in 1930.
Right.
Cap Hatfield.
Right.
Now, he writes in this book in 1975 that Nancy Hatfield told him that Randall McCoy had come to see Cap while he was laying on his deathbed before he died.
Right.
And said, Cap, I'm glad I didn't kill you back when the feud was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I didn't kill you, and I want to be friends. That's what Mr. Lee writes in his book that Nancy Hatfield told him. Now, did Nancy Hatfield tell him that, or did he make that up? We don't know.
Right.
We know it's not true because Cap Hatfield died in 1930. Randall McCoy died 1914.
Mm-hmm.
She says that Randall McCoy come and seen Cap Hatfield right before he died while he's laying on his deathbed. That would have been 1930. He couldn't have done. He was dead. He died in 1914. But that's how stories, and we just happened to look at that book a while ago when she put it up here.
Yeah.
Go ahead. And each one of these books you can look, the bloodlines there, that book there with the bloodlines, the rejected stickers come off of it. But
yeah,
there's a book where it's got the Tom and Frank McClary and Clinton, Billy Clinton.
Yeah.
Billy Clinton.
Yeah.
In Tombstone, Arizona,
Yeah.
laying in their caskets, laying on the porch spread out. And this fella here says the three McCoy boys. It's not the three McCoy boys. It's Ike Clanton and Billy and Frank McClary, whatever their names were, that OK Corral shootout.
Right.
So guys, what we're wanting to show here is there's probably one with it, babe, but that's just not the one.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
That's what it looked like.
There's Virgil Carrington Jones right there in front. Otis Rice beside of him.
Mm-hmm.
That's two of the oldest books that's out there, guys. Two of the oldest books that's been written. Virgil Carrington Jones, Otis Rice,
We have
Coleman C. Hatfield, and Robert Spence.
Mm-hmm.
Coleman C. Hatfield, ring a bell? It should. That's Cap Hatfield's. He wrote one of the first books ever written. Would Cap Hatfield's son, would Devil Ance's grandson have any reason to put stuff in his book that's not true or that's swayed more towards the Hatfield side, the West Virginia Hatfields, than it is the Kentucky? Of course he would. Of course he would. And he did. He had that reason to do it, and he did do it. Now, we've said all that to say this. For these children out there of Buford Pusser, if you don't stand up now, you can't stand up later.
This will be the outcome.
This is the outcome by not standing up, because people didn't stand up back in the day.
Yeah.
People just didn't stand up against the West Virginia Hatfields. They were bullies. Some of them's not even related. Some of them's illegitimate. It's been proven. Some of them won't take a DNA. The ones that have taken a DNA, there's something wrong with the DNAs, according to these DNA experts out there that has been studying this for years. Some of them's legit. Majority's not. They just jumped on the wagon and said, hey, I'm this, I'm that. Of course, tourisms and different people that wants anybody connected with it that wants to stand out, they'll take them and say, here, put your name here. Sign this peace treaty there. Sign this gun and put down that there's a Henry rifle out there with Rio Hatfield's signature on there that says he's the grandson, a descendant of Devil Anse Hatfield. He's no more the descendant of Devil Anse Hatfield than I am. We're cousins to Devil Anse, but we're not descendants. It's not.
Right.
So what we're trying to show here, guys, is when it's written in the history, it's there forevermore. Now, we know that some family members may not get along with other family members. They may not agree with this or that. Now, my take on watching that video is, if Pauline Pusser was a Spitfire, as she was referred to, if Diane was a spitfire or stood up for herself or outspoken, and she was, because she went through that teenage years. She went through that thing of wanting to, even her grandmother, even Phyllis and Griffin said that, you know, so she went through a phase. Now, if Diane is that outspoken and would leave home to go live in Kentucky or whatever, would she be afraid to go to Will Terry Abernathy? Would she be afraid to go to the sheriff, to the state police, to Jones, to Sloan, and said that she thought something was wrong? See, guys, none of this came up. This never came up until Mike Elam's book came out, until people started writing books. And they put these stories into their books, and other people started believing them. And people started writing into them and reading into them. My advice is, if I could give anybody advice, what you say now, these statements that people make, they may have more bearing than you think they do. You may be angry towards certain family members. You may have hard feelings towards certain family members, but down the road, you're still the grandchild, great-grandchild, great-great-great-grandchild of Buford Pusser. And your child or your children and their children is going to be the same. Do you really want to allow somebody? Do you want to be? Are you allowing yourself to be manipulated to the point of, just in order to get on a video or make a video or be somebody, or even to disagree with other family members because maybe you've not got along in life? I don't know. I'm speaking hypothetically, and I'm speaking from experience from watching the Hatfields and the McCoys throughout the years, and what happened to Randall McCoy.
Yeah.
Because of book writers, because of somebody wanting to write a book or a newspaper article or be famous. Now, we've got one more story. Go back and look through our videos for Hubert Bay McCoy. Hubert Bay McCoy, that story didn't come out till 2011. Guys, the mini-series come out in 2012. But the year before the mini-series comes out, they done an article in the newspaper in Huntington, West Virginia. And Daryl Fetty, one of the producers for the miniseries, which was the one that wrote the story, which one that said that his first wife was a McCoy and her grandfather was a Hatfield, somewhat like me. I'm related to both. My great-great-grandfather and mother was preacher aunts and Polly Hatfield. Great-great-grandparents on the McCoy side was Uriah and Aunt Betty McCoy. Uriah fought in the Civil War, was a POW with Randall. Aunt Betty was the lady that took and Rosanna in, and where she had the baby at.
Sarah Elizabeth.
She delivered her baby. She named her baby after her mother, Sarah, and Elizabeth, my great-great-grandmother, Aunt Betty. Betty for short. So, but once these things are said and once they're put out there, they're out there forevermore. So your children or your grandchildren can't come up later on and say, hey, Buford was this or Buford was that. Guys, to this date, Buford Pusser has never been found guilty of nothing. To this date, there's no evidence whatsoever that Buford Pusser did anything to Pauline. There's no evidence. Now, they tell you in every video we make, evidence is overwhelming. Even in this video, this character says, I don't know why people can't just look at the evidence and see that it's there. Point it out to us. Maybe we're stupid. Maybe you just got to point it out to us. Can you just point out the evidence? Not where somebody shot a sponge with a 357 with soaked in fake blood onto paper. Not where somebody puts two dummies facing each other. And that's not evidence, guys. That's a mockery. That's a mockery of our criminal justice system. They come out in 2011 and said Hubert Bay McCoy had, this Hatfield guy did, and he said that his grandfather was the police chief in Matewan, West Virginia, and he was raiding a brothel, and the guy in the brothel got upset because he got interrupted, and he shot his grandfather 3 times in the back. Grandfather turned around, shot, and killed him, and happened to be a McCoy. His grandfather did shoot and kill a McCoy. He shot him in the back of his head. Executed him.
He was
Sentenced to 5 years, found guilty, arrested, stood trial, sentenced 5 years hard labor, voluntary manslaughter. He don't tell you that part. He tells you that his grandfather was the last person to kill a McCoy during the feud. That's not during the feud. That's 40 years after the feud. That was 1947. He doesn't tell you that Hubert Bay McCoy was unarmed. He didn't even have a gun. His grandfather was the police chief and shot and killed. Second man he'd shot and killed him in several months. He done stood trial for one. That's how people write stuff in the history. Darrell Fetty, the producer in the Huntington paper. The Huntington paper says, Darrell Fetty says that he met Alan Hatfield, and Alan Hatfield was sitting on his porch and told the reporters that I'll go down later on and get these bullets taken out. Never did. We asked to have the body examined. Let's see those 3 bullets where he shot in the back by McCoy, an unarmed McCoy. Let's see the bullets. There was nothing to that now. The last time he was interviewed, Rio Hatfield was interviewed on the radio station. Phoebe Judge asked him about the bullets. Are those bullets still around? He said, no, unfortunately, they were lost. 3 of the most valuable artifacts in the Hatfield McCoy history. A Hatfield or a McCoy shoots a Hatfield 3 times in the back, and then he's killed by the Hatfield, and there's 3 bullets. It's written in the history. It was made up. Darrell Fetty, you think books or something. Darrell Fetty's a movie producer, executive producer. You want to see something that carries more weight than a book? Write a movie. Make a movie. Because he says here that Alan Hatfield was a John Wayne in real life. A John Wayne. Shot 3 times in the back. Didn't even get the bullets taken out. When he was 80 years old, he still had the bullets in him. Guys, for you family members, if you're going to take up for your ancestors, you got to do it now.
Now's the time.
You can't wait till these book writers write these books and these movie makers make these movies and then come out later on and have sour grapes say, well, I sure wish somebody would have said something. I sure wish. Because, see, I started on this path in the 5th grade, writing a book report on the Hatfields and McCoys. 5th grade. Now, they came to my father. I don't know if that book, go to your books again and see if the McCoys in here or not. They came to my father. We owned a little country store there on Blackberry Creek, just up the road from where the shootings took place and cabin burning and all that. Right back here in the back. Right back there in the back. She'll put an arrow on it.
I'll point
it out. The McCoys, their story. Trudy and McCoy. They come to my father's store, my mother's store in 1974 or 75, wanting to interview my father about the feud. My dad would never talk. Anybody that knew my dad, if they're alive today, they'll tell you, not a better person ever lived. He no controversy, no easy going, loved everybody, and everybody loved him. And my mother.
Good people.
He wouldn't comment. And she had said she'd come in from Virginia, wherever it was, and she was really wanting to. Dad wouldn't comment. She said, well, will you confirm who your sisters and brothers are and your dad and mom? And he did. That's what he gave her. And we're in that book there, of course, page 258. And she sent my father a book after she came out with the book later on. Just said, see page 258. And that's the page his family's on. But Dad wouldn't comment. Why would he? You can put it back on us.
Okay.
My dad's grandmother was a Hatfield. And
There we
his
go.
grandfather was a McCoy. His grandmother was a Hatfield. How do you win? How does my grandpa, Philip McCoy, my dad's father, how does he win? His mother's a Hatfield, his father's a McCoy. How do you take sides? How do you stand up? And sometimes people just let things go, but by letting them go, people writes and says whatever they want to in history until 100 years later, and then somebody comes out and they say, "Oh, he's troublemaker. He's this, he's that." Is he? When people shows things with proof, Civil War records, death and birth certificates, court documents, lawsuits, when people shows with evidence, truth with proof, is that a troublemaker or is that somebody wanting the truth out with proof? I'm afraid that's what's going to happen on the Buford Pusser.
Yeah.
We are.
Exactly.
We're
Yeah.
afraid that's going to.
They'll turn a hero into a zero. And that's sad.
Guys, we're not saying Buford Pusser walked on water.
No, by no means.
We don't know. We don't know Buford Pusser. We don't know. We're saying Buford Pusser, there's never been any evidence that would convict Buford Pusser of murdering Pauline. There's no evidence.
Right.
And that's what it takes in our country to convict somebody. There's nothing no worse than charging or accusing somebody of a crime or of a wrongdoing and them innocent.
Yeah.
Why do people feel so comfortable doing that to Buford Pusser? Hearsay, rumors, innuendos written in a book, and nobody questions it. Nobody stands up. The people that follows him says, "Good job. Good job. You proved your." They didn't prove no case. They made allegations, slanderous allegations, libel allegations. If the person's alive, I seen on that same video where he said somebody said they was buried on top of them. Guys, whether you're buried on top, you're laid on top, you're scattered, your ashes on top, that's sacred ground.
That's still a human being that was placed there, though.
That's sacred ground.
Yeah.
They're buried.
Yeah.
That's where they are buried.
That was their last wish.
That goes into the earth, their ashes to ashes, and dust to dust. Those ashes went back into the earth, whether they dug a hole and put the ashes down in it, whether they scattered the ashes on their mother. That's sacred ground. Was it that hard? You heard the videos probably by now of Griffin Mullins,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "Let's don't tell nobody else." And Parsons says, "Yeah, let's don't tell nobody. We're fine with that if you are. We'd rather not tell nobody." And they didn't. And they kept that a secret. Is that justice? Is that really, there's an old saying, justice is in the eye of the beholder. Is that justice to you guys? Or probably don't matter to you guys because it's not your
Family.
mother or your father's ashes that were disturbed. That could have been taken care of with a phone call, or at least could have been said, "Hey, we're getting ready to dig your grandmother up. Just wanted to let you know. Oh, listen, my dad's buried there. My mother's buried." They could have asked this young lady, and she could have said, "My grandma's buried there."
Yeah.
They didn't have the common decency to do that because they wanted to do it without any court filings, without any red tape to go through. And by doing that, they disrupted 2 other graves. Guys, they own that grave. When they bought that cemetery, now I'm sure by now other cemeteries and people's writing in clauses there that says 1 person per grave, or this has to go through the office to notify us. I'm sure there's some kind of technicality now. I'm sure they're covering their bases now, because I'm sure the cemetery is saying, "Well, we didn't know. We didn't know nobody else was buried there." Well, that cemetery plot was sold. It was sold. If you want to put children's ashes on top of their mother, you own that cemetery plot. You may not be able to put 3 caskets there. You can spread ashes out in the ocean, on the mountaintop, in the on the beach? Would it have really been that hard for these gentlemen, these professional gentlemen with these professional positions to have called up and said, hey, we're just going to let you know we're digging your grandma up?
To give them a
What?
chance.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad you told us that your mom and dad's buried there. Do you want us to get the legal papers to do that? So we didn't know no other graves was there. Do you want us to do that? And they would have probably said no. How about let's just go scrape off the top of the first layer of dirt, first 12 inches of dirt, and we'll keep that to put back when there's some kind of, they could have had some kind of an agreement.
Yeah, it seems like that would have been better, and to me, it would have been looked better all the way around if they had took their time and asked everyone involved instead of a select few.
Guys, by the Hatfields and the McCoys, the West Virginia Hatfields, Kentucky Hatfields was great people, still great people today. West Virginia Hatfields, or those claiming to be West Virginia Hatfields, haven't changed a whole lot. Kentucky Hatfields is still the same. They've never changed. Kentucky Hatfields and West Virginia Hatfields was two different. Same as Kentucky McCoys and West Virginia McCoys. You had Selkirk McCoy. He lived in West Virginia. Asa McCoy, not my great-grandfather Asa, another Asa, my Asa's uncle, Uriah's brother. He lived in West Virginia. Good friends with Devil Anse Hatfield. So West Virginia Hatfields and McCoys were a different breed from Kentucky Hatfields and McCoys. They came up after the state was formed in 1863. West Virginia was formed from Virginia in 1863 during the Civil War. And it was just they're just a different breed of people at that point. I don't know if this video's helped or not.
Yeah. We just thought we would jump on and give our thoughts on it.
We wanted, people was asking where we've been. There's nothing else for us to do, guys. In my words, if the family members are not concerned about their grandfather's reputation, it's not for me to say. We'll move on to something else. If the grandchildren are not concerned enough to take up for their grandfather's reputation down the road, when their grandchildren or great-grandchildren are coming up and they say, wait a minute, I'm looking through my genealogy and Buford Pusser was my great-great-great-great-grandfather. Wow. Yeah, but he was a murderer. He killed his wife. Really? Yeah, that's what the stories, that's what all the books say. Guys, you may be getting some attention now from little podcasters. You may be on a video. You may be thinking you're famous, but you may be destroying your family history for your children and your grandchildren and grandchildren's grandchildren. Yeah. You really might be. You might be the very bird later on that they look at, because this young lady that was on there was, I think, 30 years old. She wasn't around. She wasn't. Buford's been dead 51 years. Pauline's been dead 58 years. She wasn't, probably 59 years by now. These people don't know. Mm-hmm. They don't know. They're listening to another person that doesn't know, another book writer. And guys, you know, these books that Sheila was showing a while ago, it don't work like that. It don't work like that no more than it does right now. What went on with Buford Pusser? Remember, there's one author. There you go. Yeah. One author wrote a book on Buford Pusser and Pauline. And what happened? Another person comes out. Another person comes out and material from his stuff that he's wrote over the years and writes it down as his own, writes it down as the truth. Now, instead of having one book author, you've got two. You got two books out. And there'll be more. There'll be more to follow. Yeah. There'll be more. Now, there's another book out there that's coming out that's telling the other side. A lot of it, Sheila and I have covered in our videos from the August the 29th, from the day that press conference was held. We started doing videos and calling people's hands to the fact that as a police officer and investigators, this isn't looking right. This is not the way you don't charge or try dead man. You don't indict dead men. You don't, if it's gone that long, let it go. What? And this will be the last thing I comment on, babe, but justice for Pauline. How did we get justice for Pauline? We've got her family members, her descendants not agreeing with each other. We've got Pauline's brother, these children's uncle, insulting each other, don't like each other, doesn't come to the first funeral, doesn't come to the second funeral, doesn't even help buy a new dress for their relative. Where does that get anybody? This is one gentleman closes his videos out. We got justice for Pauline, but yet he called her a stripper at one point. He calls her a stripper. She was never a stripper, never been proven that she was ever an exotic dancer, a go-go dancer, stripper, whatever you want to call it. But he says, we got justice for how? How did we get justice for Pauline? By degrading her husband, by calling her husband a murderer, by getting her grandchildren into forevermore arguments and their ancestors, their uncles and aunts, hatred towards one another, get off my property, ain't worth putting a bullet in, or whatever the saying was. How did we get justice for anybody? Because Buford can't be tried. He's never been proven, never will be proven that he done this. It's not provable because we don't think it happened. The evidence is just not there. You've got rumors and innuendos of people. You've taken, like Sheila said a while ago, you've taken people that was bad. Devil Lance was a bad man. He was a Jesse James of the Tug Valley. He was a bad man. He was a thief, robber, stole property, stole timber. Look at the characters that Buford Pusser was into it with down there during that time. We have taken Buford Pusser and turned him into a zero. We've taken W.O. Hathcock, Louise Hathcock, Jack Hathcock, Towhead. Who?
Towhead.
Towhead White.
Yeah.
Nix.
Yeah.
Billy Sue Johnson.
Yeah.
Bobby Floyd. We have taken and made these people the mob, the state line mob. We've turned these people into heroes. We've turned people that's got felony records for drugs, for fraud, for stalking. We've got all these family members have got criminal records. And now they're in these books and in these podcasts. They look like the first family.
The good guys.
Who?
The good guys.
They look like the good guys. They look like the heroes.
Yeah.
And they've demoted a person that was never convicted of a crime while he was alive here on earth. Not one crime was he ever convicted of. And he's forevermore titled a murderer. And now great-great-grandchildren that didn't even know him or of him, because somebody puts in their mind. It's my opinion. This is our YouTube channel. I'm allowed to give our opinion. This is still America. Only thing that would trump me giving my opinion as an American is for me to give my opinion as an illegal, probably. That probably trumps, I feel you. But that's about the truth. Illegals have more rights than... All right.
All right.
You got it, baby.
Hey,
did you have anything else before I cut you off?
No.
Because you're trying to get me out of here. She's beating my leg. I thought I was going to get through this whole video without a... I know what you're thinking. She says, you're always ratting me out.
He does, y'all. Not cool. Not cool. We sure hope y'all are doing well and stay warm, please. And if there's elderly people, neighbors, whatever, please go check on them from time to time. Make sure they're okay during this cold weather. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll catch you on the next one. Bye. God bless.